we are really, really busy. I mean, adding shifts, thanks to Onan's help, adding shifts. And, actually next Monday we will be 24/7. So
Wow.
it's a time of tremendous growth.
Welcome to Real Leadership, the podcast that cuts through the noise to focus on leaders who make, move, and process things in the real economy. Together, we discover the strategies and hard-earned lessons from pragmatic, gutsy leaders who operate in a world that is more steak than it is sizzle. Here we dive into their stories, challenges, and triumphs to go beyond the surface to the very heart of leadership in the real economy. I'm your host, Jim Weaver, Chief Operating Officer of the Ona Group, where we believe that real leadership does indeed matter. Let's go. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing Paul Seeman, an entrepreneur in the beverage processing industry in the Windy City of Chicago, Illinois. Paul's career journey was a fascinating one. After graduating from Duke University and obtaining his JD from the University of Virginia Law, he spent 17 years practicing law before making an abrupt career change in 2020. That's when he founded Boombox Beverage, a co-packaging retort facility that processes high-quality cold brew coffee. Despite the challenges of the pandemic in the company's infancy stages, Boombox Beverage has thrived and grown, which is a testament to Paul and his team. So without further ado, this is Paul Seeman, CEO and founder of Boombox Beverage. Welcome, Paul.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad we got to do this. So, as I look at your background, there's a question that has been kind of burning in me, and I'll, so you had a very, really pretty prestigious college track. You get your JD, you practice law, you get into corporate counsel, move up the food chain there. You work for some pretty big organizations. You were with Rush Street Gaming, which I understand is a Forbes 400 family, and your general counsel there. And then you went and worked for a defense contractor, and you went all the way up the ladder to chief business officer. And then you take this hard left turn to be an entrepreneur. And I got to ask you, what were you thinking?
I'm like my wife. I always had sort of an entrepreneurial bent. I tried to start businesses in college, was very reluctantly enrolled in law school, and sort of was on a quest to learn what I was trying to learn from law, and it took a lot longer than I arguably overinvested in that. But the goal was to work to start a business, but it was a pretty long journey to have the confidence to do it. The timing turned out to be pretty interesting. Didn't predict the pandemic, but yeah, I mean, I probably the bigger hard left, to use your quote, is that I'm in manufacturing, which is not something that I ever even really considered. I was actually not at a defense contractor. It was a nonprofit. Obama set up Centers for Excellence that were backed by the Department of Defense. And the Digital Manufacturing Center for Excellence happened to be in Chicago. And so, I worked for a family for 8.5 years doing gaming and learned a ton. I mean, the person that I work for, I just learned so much from working with him, but was looking for something different. And a lot of my friends gave me a hard time because they think I went too far the other way, because going from a billionaire, working for a billionaire, to working for a nonprofit was a pretty abrupt change.
Yeah.
But I have sort of I would say somewhat classic entrepreneurial story where I kind of didn't know any better. And that's how I ended up sort of where I am. There's a friend of mine, he's a friend of mine, but he grew up with my wife. And while I was at the manufacturing center. We were just having lunch, just two buddies catching up, and he started complaining about how there was no one to make cold brew. He was a specialty coffee distributor. He was kind of the guy who invented doing that. And
invented doing what? I'm sorry.
Distributing specialty coffee. He was the first one who came up with like a really serious company for office coffee supply is what it's called. And so, but I didn't know anything about coffee other than as a fan. And I said, I did the naive, well, how hard is that? What's involved in that? And so, fast forward and here we are. I mean, so it was, it was a pretty far cry from, the partner track in a law firm. It's very, very different.
Yes.
Understanding your local labor market is crucial for successful recruitment. Onan Staffing's Recruitment Strategy Guide provides insights specific to your geographical location and positions you're hiring for. Our Recruitment Strategy Guide delivers a clear snapshot of your labor market and actionable intel to tackle market-specific challenges. With Onan's expertise, we help you navigate and win in your competitive landscape. Empower your recruiting process and the insights you need. Learn more about Onan's Recruiting Strategy Guide at onanstaffing.com/strategy.
Okay, so you went from the gaming industry, and you took what you just said was more of a left turn into the nonprofit sector, right?
Yeah, both the nonprofit sector and the manufacturing sector were both, and in some ways, gaming was by mistake. I mean, I joined this family in 2008, and my background, there was a financial product that we were going to market because I'd been a specific type of lawyer that, and I joined in April of 2008, and this product had a lot of leverage on it, and so the leverage went the wrong way because of the financial crisis, and the family sort of pivoted into gaming in a much bigger way, and so it was that was also somewhat by mistake.
Yeah. So isn't that interesting the way life plays out like that? It's happy mistakes, right? What were the things that you took away? You said you learned a lot in that business from your boss there. So what were some of the major things that you took away from that gig in that family business?
He just he was completely self-made. I mean, he's still alive. He is completely self-made, and he's a brilliant thinker and an incredibly hard worker. I mean, it was always humbling, when there was an issue we were grappling with. I mean, one of the amazing things about that job is, I had access to some of the brightest legal minds in the world. I mean, I sort of ran a virtual law firm, and the work we were doing, people thought was interesting enough. The rule was you had to get along, or you were sort of not allowed to play. And so we had, one firm doing tax work, one firm doing, and it's pretty unusual to have that many firms sort of working as a team. But anyways, I have many examples where we would grapple with an issue and decide that we were finally ready to present to him. And he would immediately just say something that none of us had thought of in the hours of preparation that we had done. And you literally, it was like a head slapping moment where you're like, oh my God, that is so obvious now that he said it. How did we miss this? I mean, he's just a brilliant human being.
Yeah. You had mentioned that you kind of reluctantly went to law school. And I actually hear that a lot. It's a fairly common thing for lawyers to say. Is that, I don't know, why do you think that is? And why did you do it in spite of kind of being reluctant about it? Because that's a big commitment.
So the truth is somewhat humorous. I tried to start a business my senior year of college. I was managing a band at the time and working on a venue with someone. And my parents said, just take the LSAT. You never know what's going to happen, just in case. And so that deal fell apart. And I was pretty uncomfortable during the deal because, I was being handed contracts and I couldn't read them. And I went to see the pre-law dean at my college and said, hey, what should I do? And he said, well, the big decision you have is, you should apply to these schools. It actually was amazing. He was like, you should apply to these 7 schools. You'll get into these. You won't get into these, and you'll get waitlisted at this one. And he was 7 for 7, which was pretty amazing. Wow. But he said the bigger question is, what are you going to do this year? Because there's nothing you can do that matters. So I think you should move to Colorado. And so on the ride home from that meeting, I called my parents and said, I'm going to law school. So it was not the most, I figured it wouldn't hurt me, but it was not the most, I never really aspired to be a lawyer. I wanted to understand how deals worked. And hopefully a law school education has evolved a lot because that was not what you learned at law school when I went. So that's why I went to New York, sort of on the same quest. And I don't think I really got an understanding till I worked for the family and watched this guy who was, a dean of doing deals, put deals together.
Yeah. Those are really the lawyers that add value to business, I think. The ones that bring you ideas and they've got that entrepreneurial bent to them, that creativity to them. I don't know. It seems like there are kind of the yes or no lawyers, and then you have the creative ones, and those are the,
But there's a passion to really good lawyers that candidly I lacked. If I just was being honest about myself, I was able to do it. I was decent at it, but by the time I had negotiated an indemnity provision for the gajillionth time, I didn't have the love for the dance that a lot of people who are successful at practicing law have, where they just really want to sort of play the chess match and get as much as they can get. And one of the most humbling legal things was soon after I got hired by this family. One of the important things in a document, I don't want to put your listeners to sleep.
No, please.
One of the important things in a document, it's called the flow of funds. And so it means when money comes, where does the money go? And I had drafted probably 1,000 flow of funds. And I had an accountant come to me, and this was probably like my second week, and say, okay, we just sold this company. Here's the agreement. I need to send the money out. How does it work? And it was a super humbling thing because, I had been paid, my hourly rate was insane because I was at a fancy law firm and I'd never been asked something that practical.
Right.
I had to really work through it. It was, I'd be like, oh, how does the money work? Because, we used to bind the deal document, put it on a shelf, and it was over.
Right.
About, the practical stuff. So, for me, I always wanted to be closer to the actual deals. But I have tremendous respect for, I was incredibly fortunate to work with some really brilliant lawyers who just, to your point, are just super creative and just really have a incredible understanding and mastery of the subject matter. I didn't have the same passion for it. I sort of felt that it was repetitive rather than mastering a task or something like that.
Yeah. Okay, so you 17 years in, what finally, you mentioned this conversation you had with someone who was in the business. What finally crystallized the decision to make the leap for you? What made that time the right time to do it?
I think it was a couple of things. One, I'd been the general counsel of this large, well, it wasn't large when we started, but by the time I left, we were doing over $1 billion of revenue, and we had 5,000 plus employees, and we had really built something pretty amazing. And also, if you think about the time, it was during the financial crisis that we were creating all these jobs, which was pretty incredible. But as a lawyer, my job was always to lay out what the options were and say you could go this way or this way, but you got to think about it. But I never actually made the decision. And then when I went to the nonprofit, I was running multiple departments. And I would say that gave me some more confidence because I was sort of one step closer to the action. And then as that was going on, this opportunity, my friend said, well, there's something called the Specialty Coffee Expo. SCA has an expo. It actually was this past weekend. It was the first one I've missed in a while. He said, well, why don't you go to the SCA and take a look and see? And I went there and I was like, oh my God, there's a total gap. At the time, I thought it was going to follow craft beer, where it was like, okay, there's Sam Adams and Anchor's Theme, which was, Stumptown and La Colombe or whoever your sort of big cold brew brand. Obviously, Starbucks is the big papa of it all.
Sure.
But it seemed like there was a total lack of cold brew conversations in the specialty realm.
Yeah.
And then I came back and I said, oh my God, I think there's a gap. He's like, well, there's one more piece to this puzzle. You should go to the National Restaurant Association meeting, which happened to be in Chicago. And after that meeting, I was like, oh my God, the huge companies are all about cold brew. There's a window here and an opportunity. I need to do that. And my wife was actually with me at NRA, and she, I have always bounced ideas off of her and the like, and she was like, you need to do this. The thing that was amazing is our business is this machine called Retort. And I had never heard of a Retort. So I jumped into this, looking for 5,000 square feet, couple tanks, canning line, totally simple. And then I realized that this Retort machine, whatever it was the whole game. And it totally changed everything because it's just so much more complicated, so much more regulated. So
would you explain what you do, like to the folks, what the Retort process is?
Sure,
well,
absolutely.
Or what you do?
Yeah. So what we do, the FDA has something called a low acid canned food. That is something with a pH that is higher than 4.6. And in the sort of scheme of how the FDA regulates, you have pharmaceuticals, and then low acid is the next level of regulation, deemed by the FDA to be sort of I mean, if we don't do our job correctly, people could get really sick, and so it's really important that it's heavily regulated, and as a consumer, I sort of feel okay with how it's regulated. Just being blunt, but
sure.
For something that's low acid, which is coffee, milk, alt milk, some teas are not low acid, but so if you want to do a cold brew or a latte, you need to heat treat it somehow to make sure it's safe to ship it without refrigeration. And there's two choices. You can either do something called aseptic, which is a process that we don't do, which is, like the plastic bottles or a Tetra Pak. Think of like a protein shake or a Stoke RTD or something like that. And then for cans, the only FDA approved way to send stuff without refrigeration is Retort, which is a giant pressure cooker. And it's a fascinating market because the market's exploding. Again, Starbucks, I'm the opposite of a Starbucks hater. I think the market follows them. And Starbucks, and if you look at the numbers, I mean, they're just the Frappuccino and the double shot they're just dominant. But there are not many facilities in the United States that are for hire to make Retort beverages. And I don't know if it's because of COVID or because of how complicated it is. It appears currently that the big ones are getting bigger. And by the way, we're the smallest facility in the United States. So we're small, but we like to think mighty.
Yeah.
But the big guys are getting bigger. And currently it appears that there aren't a bunch of facilities coming online. I mean, there's rumors, but it's just, there is one mega facility that's coming online that everyone knows about. It's going to be a 550,000 square foot facility in Arkansas.
Oh my goodness.
Run by a public company called Westrock. But they're the sort of, we do the same thing, but we don't do the same thing at all, if that makes any sense. I mean, they're going to make Starbucks is not calling us because if they hugged us, we would choke. But there's enough innovative brands or brand extensions or private label that we are really, really busy. I mean, adding shifts, thanks to Onan's help, adding shifts. And, actually next Monday we will be 24/7. So it's a time of tremendous growth.
Yeah.
Facing sudden growth or limited by traditional financing? Momentum Capital Funding empowers businesses with real-time cash flow through AR factoring. Get the funding you need and fuel your success. Visit MomentumCapitalFunding.com to learn more.
How did you learn about the Retort process? Am I saying that right? Is it a process?
I would say I have been very fortunate to have, the FDA requires that you have something called a process authority, who is basically the person who verifies things on their behalf. So it's an independent, someone independent. And we have a partnership with a process authority out of New Orleans. They're called Technical. It was started by a guy named Lee Cabes. His son Scott now runs it. I would say Scott has been incredibly patient and generous. There's a guy named Scott Maxey from Imbibe, who spent a lot of time and been incredibly, it's been a lot of listening on the process side. In terms of and then fortunately, I don't think so much on the processing side, but overall, there's been a lot of mistakes and a lot of painful, learned it the old-fashioned way, did a bunch of really not great stuff.
So you mentioned before you're the classic entrepreneur who didn't know better. So what were some of the eye-opening
just taking on building a manufacturing plant when you've never worked at one was tremendously stupid. There's no sort of, or arrogant, or I don't know what the right word is. It just, when we opened, not just when we were open, the process of getting it opened was filled with a lot of bumps. And when I look back on some of the things that I didn't know that are just fundamental, it's crazy. And fortunately, I think people are incredibly generous in terms of, I mentioned Scott Maxey from Imbibe, but Imbibe is a large formulator in Chicago, and they just were incredibly generous with their resources. They have a huge team, tons of expertise, and they've been my phone a friend since the beginning. There's been a lot of phone a friends and a lot of mistakes made that fortunately I think the market is robust enough that we've been able to get past those mistakes.
You had never managed a blue collar, like a entry level production workforce before, obviously. So what has worked for you there in terms of attracting employees and retention, and what hasn't worked for you?
So I'll start with a story that I think is kind of amusing. So I have a really close friend from college who actually went to law school and then got an MBA and now is a casino executive. And he was the CFO of the crown jewel of the casino company when I was there. And there was something going on, and I was, getting, it was an uncomfortable time because everybody was upset and there was a lot of scrutiny. And so I was calling this guy all the time and sort of saying, like, I don't understand. Like, what's the, like, it's not that hard. Just make it happen, And I would say about a year into this business, I called him up and apologized because I was like, I get it now. I mean, it's challenging. I mean, I think there's a lot of externalities. And remember, we got our certificate of occupancy May 20th, 2020.
Wow.
Our inspection started with a screaming fight with the health department about social distancing.
Oh,
I was like, oh boy, this is not going to be good. So, we've never operated in a quote unquote normal time. But, I think you need good partners and good mentors. And, I think, our employees are really smart and they're authentic. And, my language is not good. So I don't know you just can't bullshit people. It's just not going to work. So, not that I was trying to in the beginning, but I do think that I was a little naive. Maybe I'd like to think optimistic. My wife would probably say naive, but
there's a fine line, my friend.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true. Employment has been a real challenge. Getting people, and it's funny because I think there were like phases. There was a period where I felt like people needed to schedule interviews to keep their COVID benefits. And so you get a lot of interviews that were scheduled where they never showed up. And then like now we're sort of at the phase where you don't know if someone's coming until they actually start. And it's just there's a lot of, we recently hired someone for HR who's great. And, one of the challenging things as an owner is I do try to do the right thing, which is not, there's gray in that.
Sure.
You do sometimes feel like it's goes unnoticed or people don't care. And we had a conversation an hour and a half ago about how, last week we had a mechanical issue and the decision was made that everyone had to get paid for 40 hours because it's not like people's bills stopped because we had a mechanical issue.
Right.
And she said to me, look, I've been meaning to tell you this. Someone did say, wow, that was really like a generous thing to do. And it felt kind of good that someone acknowledged it, because we could have easily said, yep, we're not producing, too bad.
A lot of companies would have done that. Would have done that.
And that might have been the right thing to do. I don't know. But so, we have some great people. We're still trying to build our core. It's a really challenging employment time.
Yeah.
People, the folks who work at factories, and I'm not trying to generalize, a lot of them have a lot of complicating life factors that there are people who aren't going to be good employees no matter what, but
sure.
Most of the people I feel like, and again, maybe it's optimism or naive, I don't know, really want to be good employees, but they've got things going on, a lot of them in their home country. We've had people leave because a situation they needed to go home for, we just, the population is dealing with a lot.
Yeah.
And so,
I love your realism with that. I'm 100% with you. We've got to be real about, okay, let's look at the income threshold, and you can't sort of impose a middle class experience onto that. You're going to have car issues. You're going to have childcare issues? I mean, we've
well,
got to
and I think a huge portion of our population is sending money to their family wherever they're from.
Yeah.
And so, on top of the fact that they're I mean, it's not. I have a ton of respect for the people who work at a place like Boombox. I mean, what they're doing is amazing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, it seems like you are planing out a little. Does it feel like that? Like your business is kind of, okay, you're only 3 years in now. Yeah. But it feels like you guys have planed out. Does it feel that way to you?
Some days. Some days it feels that way. Some days are, I mean, I send a quarterly letter to my investors, and I had a section this time that said, "What keeps you up at night?" And the first sentence was, "You don't do a job like this because you want to sleep great." I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's an interesting observation. I would say compared to when we're planning out, but I don't know that it doesn't. I mean, we manufacturing's hard. I mean, it's really hard. And I always joke that it's like a strange 3D puzzle where you've got to have the right equipment, the right people, and the right partners. And the partners are vendors and customers for it all to work.
Yeah.
And it's also, and you can hear it and feel it. I mean, it's not like, it's not like most jobs that I'd had before. I mean, you can literally feel in the building how things are going.
Sure. Absolutely.
So it's interesting.
Yeah. Who is your customer and why do they pick you as opposed to one of your competitors? Like, what's your competitive advantage? Who's your ideal partner?
So it's a mix of people. Historically, it's been new launches, brand extensions, and then private label is sort of where I think we're going. Mm-hmm. I mean, our customers, candidly, the big guys are so big that even very large companies sometimes can't launch a product with the minimum orders that the larger customers require. So I think, most of our customers are launching something new. And I think they're working with us because that's kind of what we specialize in. Mm-hmm. And if I'm being totally honest, the market's also crazy. And, some of them are working with us because they don't have another choice. I'd like to convert them and have people working with us because they think we're great to work with and great at what we do. But I mean, that's the honest answer is that, one of the largest facilities is in Illinois called Burner, and they're not interested in talking to a smaller brand. I mean, they just can't, their lines are just too big.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
It's evolving though. I mean, hopefully it will evolve and will be more sort of focused on private label. And I think we're developing a positive reputation. I hope so. But I mean, co-manufacturing is a hard business. As many people like you, other ones don't. I mean, it's a hard business. But it's similar to what I was describing with the employees. I mean, we try and do the right thing, and sometimes we feel like people recognize it and appreciate it, and sometimes maybe not so much. We try and do.
Well, you got to keep doing the right thing, though. Just so you can, it's already hard enough to sleep with all the issues rolling around your head. If your conscience is wearing on you, that's not going to help with the sleep. That's for sure.
Yep.
Well, hey, I appreciate you. So, how can folks? We'll put contact information in the show notes. But how can folks, if they want to work with you or work on your team, how can they find you?
Probably the website's the best place. It's boomboxbeverage.com. We are always looking for mechanics. We are currently looking for filler operators, always looking for quality people. quality people in general, like in terms of high quality people, but specifically quality techs.
Quality techs, okay.
Yeah, I mean we're adding shifts, so we're constantly hiring, and so if a fast paced, relatively flat environment is appealing,
yeah,
we're I mean hopefully we're attracting builders because we're really trying to build something.
Well, we can attest to the environment out there. We walk into a lot of places, and you're right. You can feel when you walk into a place. You can feel the energy, and from what my team has said, you guys have that going. So that's great. I know it doesn't feel like it, but it's been 3 years, and I got to tell you, and I've been in the recruiting business for 22 now.
Wow.
These years that you've launched this business in, there's some crazy years, and you guys have, you're running 3 shifts and you're picking up customers, and you have accomplished a lot in 3 years. So congratulations. And I just hope it continues to rock and roll for you. And
thanks to the team in Chicago from Onan, Pilar and Esmeralda. Thanks for all your hard work. We saw some candidates from you this morning.
Amen to that. All right.
So,
okay, Paul. Well, I appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Take care.